Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics, Dio here. Today we have a 2004 Ford F150 with a 5.4 liter. The customer complaint on this vehicle is the check engine light remains on while the engine is running. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside the vehicle and confirm the customer's complaint. After confirming the customer's complaint, we're going to connect a scan tool to the vehicle and scan the engine control module to see what kind of trouble codes we have in the engine computer that are causing the check engine light to remain on while the engine is running. After we retrieve the trouble codes, then we will talk about what directions we're going to go so we can fix whatever that's causing the check engine light to remain on while the engine is running. So now let's go inside the vehicle and confirm the customer's complaint. So now I'm going to start the engine so we can confirm the customer's complaint. So right there, as you can hear, the engine is running and the check engine light remained on. So right there, check engine light is on. So customer's complaint confirmed. Okay, so right there, check engine light remained on. So now I'm gonna turn off the engine and connect the scan tool to the vehicle so we can scan the engine computer. So I'm gonna turn off the engine. I'm gonna turn the key on. I'm gonna get the scan tool connected to the vehicle and then I'll bring you guys back up. So we have 4 trouble codes in the engine computer. The first trouble code is P0011, intake cam position timing over advanced, bank 1. And then the second one is P0021, intake cam position timing over advanced, bank 2. And then the third one is P0340, cam position sensor circuit fault. And then the other one is P0581, cruise multifunction A circuit high. So that's good to know. Let's scroll down and see what other trouble codes we have in the other modules. So these camshaft sensor trouble codes that we have here in the engine computer, we also have them in the transmission control unit. Okay, so that's good to know. We have a brake pedal input circuit open trouble code in the ABS control unit. Let's see what else we have. C1704, rear outer right sensor fault, parking aid module. So one trouble code in the parking aid module. Okay, so we got a couple trouble codes here. And on the generic side of the scan tool, we have 3 trouble codes. P0011, A camshaft position timing over advanced or system performance bank 1. And the other one is P0021, A camshaft position timing over advanced or system performance bank 2. So this same trouble code here is set on both banks, bank 1 and bank 2. And then the third trouble code is P0340, cam position sensor A circuit bank 1 or single sensor. Interesting. It looks like we have something going on with these sensors. Okay, so let's scroll back up. We're gonna go to the engine computer. Now what I want to do is, these codes are pretty self-explanatory. It means, especially this one, I'm gonna focus on this P0340 trouble code. This code over here sets when there's a problem in the cam sensor circuit. Okay, the problem could be in the circuit or the sensor itself. All right, now what I want to do is I'm gonna remember these trouble codes and I'm gonna go to the troubleshooter and look up these trouble codes and we're gonna read about them, and after that we're gonna figure out our plan of attack. Okay, so let's go into the engine computer. Okay, so we have P0340 and P0011. So let's look up this P0340 trouble code first. So let's go to troubleshooter first. We're gonna look up P0340. So here's P0340. And what does it say? It says camshaft position sensor circuit malfunction. Then description: the test fails when the powertrain control module, PCM, can no longer detect the signal from the camshaft position sensor on bank 1. Okay, so that's good to know. So we have this code when there's no longer a signal going to the computer from this sensor. Okay, and then possible causes. So the possible causes are camshaft position sensor circuit open, camshaft position sensor circuit shorted to ground, camshaft position sensor short to power. So basically anything that will alter the sensor circuit will cause this trouble code. You can have an open, a short to ground, a short to power, or a defective sensor, and so on. Okay, and here they even say that a cam sensor incorrectly installed can also cause this trouble code, especially if it's a Hall effect sensor. We got some diagnostic aid over here. It says harness routing, harness alterations, improper shielding, or electrical interference from other improperly functioning systems may have an intermittent impact on the camshaft sensor signal. Okay, so that's good to know. With this information over here, now what I want to do is I want to inspect the circuit of this sensor. Okay, the sensor on bank 1. We can check both sensors. I'm pretty sure the sensors are not hard to get to, so we're gonna inspect the circuit of both sensors and see what we're gonna find. Okay, so now let's back out of here. The other thing I want to do is, knowing that we have 4 trouble codes in the engine computer, we're not going to attack all 4 of them at the same time. So all these codes are already saved inside the scan tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to back out and clear these codes. I'm going to clear the codes and start the engine. And after the engine runs for a couple minutes, we're going to see which trouble code will come back first. Whatever trouble code that comes back first will be the code that we're going to go after. Okay? Now let's check our codes. Go to memory codes. So we no longer have any trouble codes. The only code we have is this P1000 trouble code. Now this trouble code sets when all the OBD monitors haven't run yet. Okay, so we're not going to worry about this. Let's go to pending codes. So as you can see, there are no trouble codes present. Okay, so now I'm going to start the engine. Let's see what we're going to find. So as you can see, the engine is running. Our check engine light went out because I erased the trouble codes. So check engine light is still off. So now I'm gonna turn off the engine and turn the key back on. Let's read the codes again and see what we have. Let's go to pending codes. So right there, we have one trouble code that came back, P0340. And this is the trouble code that we just looked up, okay? Camshaft position sensor A, circuit, bank 1, or single sensor, okay? So since this is the only code that came back up, we're gonna go after this one, okay? So the sensor on bank 1 is having a problem, okay? It's either the sensor or the circuit. Now let's go to memory codes and let's see what we got there. Okay, the same fault code is also in the memory code, P0340 cam position sensor circuit fault. That's good to know. So now let's back out of here. I want to know which side is bank 1. Is it the driver side or the passenger side? So we're gonna find that out by going to the guided component test. This is a 5.4 engine. So let's go to engine and let's go to ignition test, component information. Sometimes they will give you the firing order here. Okay, so right there. So here is our cylinder layout. So this is good info. This is one of the reasons why I love Snap-on scan tools. Okay, and this information is in the tool, which is really good. So our cylinder layout. So from the front of the engine, bank 1 is going to be the bank on the passenger side. Okay, so cylinder 1 is on the bank on the passenger side. So this is bank 1, and bank 2 will be the bank on the driver's side. And this over here is our firing order. Okay, so right side bank is bank 1. Okay, so that's good to know. Bank 1 is the bank on the passenger side. So now let's back out of here. The other thing we could do is we can look up this sensor and see what type of sensor we have on this vehicle. So it looks like it's a 2-wire sensor. Okay, we can read a little bit about this sensor. It says there are 2 possible systems. So one camshaft position sensor is a magnetic pulse generator. The sensor is activated by a single vane driven by the camshaft. Signal is used by the PCM to synchronize sequential fuel injection, ignition, and for cylinder misfire detection. 3-wire sensor system. And then the second one is camshaft position sensor is a magnetic pulse generator that sends an AC voltage signal proportional to engine camshaft speed. ECM uses info in determining engine timing and sequential injection controls. 2-wire sensor system. Okay, so this vehicle may have a 2-wire sensor or a 3-wire sensor depending on whichever one you find on the vehicle. Okay, so there's a possibility that it could be a 2-wire sensor or a 3-wire sensor, and this sensor is used to notify the engine computer about the engine timing so that the computer can know when to fire the injectors and the coils. Okay, so that's good to know. Now that we know how this sensor works and the type of sensors that we might have, we're gonna go under the hood and check these sensors. Okay, we're gonna look at the sensors and the circuit of the sensor. If it's a 2-wire sensor, it's gonna be a magnetic pulse generating sensor. So it means when the engine runs, that sensor needs to create a voltage. Okay, we can also use a scope to test the sensor. All right, and then we have more notes over here. We have a note over here that says, note, some vehicles equipped with variable camshaft timing will use 2 camshaft sensors, 1 for each bank, which is basically pretty common on a lot of engines. You will have 2 sensors, 1 for each bank. And then best test location, so this is where we should do our test. Okay, so bulk connector at cam sensor, and then it tells us where the sensor is located. So component location, left side of timing chain cover, below valve cover. That's good. So now let's go under the hood and do a visual inspection. If everything looks good, we're gonna get to the sensor connector and we will use our lab scope and back probe the sensor. We're gonna start the engine to see if the sensor is producing a signal. Okay, so now let's go under the hood and do that. So let's open up the hood. Already a big old 5.4 liter engine. Now our bank 1 is the bank on the passenger side. So let's look around here and see where our camshaft sensor is. So it should be over here. Wow, guys, we are gonna get lucky. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying, guys? Look at this. So here is our cam sensor. So this is the sensor right here, okay? And the wire actually goes against the cylinder head. Look at the wire. Look at the sensor wire. Let me zoom you guys in. What happened? Look at this. Look at the wire. So that's why we have a circuit code, because this wire is broken. Okay? And it's a 2-wire sensor. And this sensor makes a voltage. It makes an AC voltage when the engine is running. Okay? Now we need to find where the harness is, or where the harness is supposed to go. Okay? So there's your problem, lady. Check that out. Okie dokie. Well, so now we need to find where the harness is. Oh, so the harness is up here. You know, I'm trying to figure out what happened. Yeah, so right here. So these wires are supposed to go over here on this harness. Okay. Yeah, so this is supposed to go right there. Okay, but I don't know, maybe mice, I guess. You know, I know mice like to eat up wires. I mean, maybe they came up here and chewed on this cam sensor wiring, because that's the only thing I can think about, because this is supposed to go over here. Okay, well, this is gonna be a quick and easy one. We don't really get lucky that often. So we're gonna fix this wire, and this should be good to go. Okay, because the customer told me that he went to AutoZone and they scanned the vehicle, and they told him that he needed a cam sensor. And what he did was he bought a cam sensor and said, Dio, I have a check engine light on my car. I went to AutoZone and they told me I need a cam sensor. I'm gonna buy it and install it. Do you think it's hard to install? I told him, well, it could be easy or hard, but you may not need a sensor. It could be a wiring issue, or it could be a lot of things. I've seen these engines, especially these 5.4 engines, have a timing jump and cause cam sensor trouble codes to be set while the problem was the timing. So I was like, there are so many variables. You could just have a bad sensor also, or a wiring issue. When I told him that, then he said, you know what, I'll bring it to you so you can look at it. If it needs a sensor, then I already have the sensor. I'm buying the sensor from AutoZone. I said, okay, fine. Well, I'm glad, because in this particular case, he doesn't need a sensor. It's the wiring. Actually, let me go in the truck and get the sensor that he bought, because he told me that he already bought the sensor. Here's the sensor that he had bought. Okay, here's the part number. So he's not gonna need this sensor. Let's see the sensor that he bought. And it looks like they even sold him a wrong sensor. Look at this. They sold him the wrong sensor. This looks like a Chevy sensor, not a Ford sensor. You see this? So this is the sensor he had bought, but even if it needed a sensor, this sensor is wrong, okay? This is not the right sensor, okay? So now let's go under the hood and fix that wiring. After we fix the wiring, we're gonna erase the trouble codes and test drive the vehicle. And after that, this vehicle will be fixed. So now let's go back under the hood. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open up this wiring harness, okay? So we're gonna open this harness up and connect these two wires. I'm gonna have to extend these wires a little bit because they are so tight. Okay, we're gonna extend this wire just a little bit, and then we will tape it up really well. So we're gonna fix the wiring, and this should be good to go. I'm going to disconnect this upper radiator hose. I'm gonna disconnect it from this clamp over here, and then I'm just gonna push it back to get it out of the way so we can get to the wiring harness easily and do our repair. Okay, so I'm gonna seat you guys over here so we can do that. Now I do have a drain container under the vehicle, so all this coolant that's leaking out is going into the drain container. Okay, so now we're just gonna push this hose up here. Alright, so we got the hose out of the way. So here is our wire. So we got both of our cam sensor wires up here. So that's good. That's long enough. Okay, these wires are long enough. This will allow us to fix these two wires. So now we're gonna remove the tape on the sensor side. Actually, I can just disconnect the sensor down here and remove this connector. So here is the sensor connector. So I'm gonna undo this tape. All right. So right here, we do have this connector over here for the sensor and these two wires over here on the harness side. So now what we need to do is we have to connect these wires together. Okay, these two and then these two. Once we connect all of them, then we should be good to go. Okay, so I'm gonna go grab what we need so we can connect these two wires together. The length of this connector over here is starting to look a little bit short. If I connect these wires straight to the wires on the harness, this connector is gonna be too short and there will be too much tension on these wires. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lengthen these wires just a little bit. Okay, we're gonna make them slightly long and then we will tape them up against the harness really well. Okay, so now we're gonna strip these wires over here. So we got these two wires stripped. Now, we can fix this wiring two ways. The first way will be soldering these two wires together. The second way will be using these shrink butt connectors, okay? I love using these shrink butt connectors because after you crimp them, you're gonna use a lighter to heat them up. When you heat them, they actually melt very well and seal against the wire. There's actually a liquid that comes out and seals against the wire, okay, which is really good. I've used these for a while and I haven't had issues with these type of butt connectors. Not all butt connectors are the same, but these ones are pretty good. Okay, so I don't feel like soldering these wires. I'm just gonna use these butt connectors and I'm pretty sure we should be good to go after we connect all these wires with these butt connectors. Okay, so I'm gonna strip the wires on the harness side. So right there. I hope the camera is picking this up, so I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. Alright, so we're gonna extend these wires over here with these other wires. So I found this green wire that I'm gonna attach to this green wire, and then this brown wire with a white tracer. I couldn't find a brown wire with a white tracer, so I'm going to put this white wire in the middle just to extend it a little bit. Alright, so we got the wires connected. So now I'm gonna bring you over here so I can show you how the connected wires look, and then we're gonna tape everything up very well, and after that we should be good to go. So here are my wires fixed. Okay, so I reconnected everything, and here is the connector for the sensor. Okay, and this is gonna go right there on the sensor. Okay, so the sensor is right here. This is the camshaft sensor, so this connector will go over here. Okay, now we're gonna tape this up very well, and we're gonna tape it against this harness. Okay, so now I'm gonna tape up the wiring, and I'm gonna show you the wiring again after I have everything taped up, and then we will verify our repair. So now let's do that. Alright, so we got the harness taped up and ready to go. So I'm going to bring you guys over here so I can show you the harness that I have taped up, and then we're gonna reconnect the sensor and reinstall the upper radiator hose, and then after that we're gonna go inside the vehicle and start the engine. Here is the wiring harness that I have taped up. So we fixed the wire, everything looks good. Okay, so the camshaft sensor wire is taped up against this main harness over here, so we should be good to go with this. So now I'm going to connect the sensor, so we're gonna plug it back in, so right there. All right, okay, so this is good. So now let's reinstall the upper radiator hose, and then we're gonna go inside the vehicle to start the engine. So I'm gonna top off our cooling system. So I'm gonna put coolant inside the coolant reservoir. So I have put everything back together. As you can see, we are good to go. So now let's go inside the vehicle and start the engine. After we let the engine idle for a couple minutes, we're gonna rescan the engine computer to see if our camshaft sensor trouble code will no longer be saved in memory. Okay, so now let's go inside the vehicle and do that. Let's get back in the truck. So now I'm gonna start the engine so we can verify our repair. So the engine sounds good. So now I'm gonna bring up our scan tool. So the scan tool has identified the vehicle already. So that's good. So let's go. Actually, let's clear all the fault codes out of all these modules. Okay, we can just do it while the engine is running. So right there, we have cleared the codes out of all the modules. So now let's do a code scan. Let's see what we got. Bingo. So as you can see, only the P1000 trouble code comes back, but the camshaft sensor circuit code is not coming back anymore. Okay, so that's good, guys. This is fixed. Okay, no check engine light. All right, now let's go into the engine computer. Let's read some codes. Let's go to pending codes. As you can see, no pending codes. Let's go to memory codes. Only the P1000 trouble code. Okay, so we're good to go. So now let's go for a test drive. It's getting late, but I want to just drive around the shop and come back. I can already tell that this is fixed, but let's just drive around really fast and then we're gonna come back to the shop, and after that we will wrap up this video. So let's take this truck for a quick spin. All right, so let's drive. All right, so it's dark outside, but guess what? Let's do a quick little spin and then we will get back to the shop and then wrap up this video. Alright guys, so we are back at the shop. So now I'm gonna turn off the engine. So as you can see, the check engine light remained off. So I'm gonna turn off the engine. I'm gonna turn the key back on. So we're gonna bring up the scan tool. Let's scan this again and see what we find. So let's go to scanner. Let's back out. Let's go to codes, pending codes. So right there, no trouble codes. Let's go to memory codes. So right there, no memory codes. So let's do a self-test, a key on engine off self-test. So this will test all the components around the engine, all the electrical components around the engine. So right there, after the test, only the P1000 trouble code comes back. Okay, so this is good, guys. We're good to go. This is fixed. So this vehicle didn't need a camshaft sensor. It needed a wiring of the camshaft sensor. So now, I don't know what happened or what caused that wire to break. I'm pretty sure maybe mice, I guess. I know these mice like to chew on wires. So that's the only thing I can think about. So I'm gonna leave this right over here. I hope you liked this video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why so we can make better videos in the future. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. And if this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. And if you are a subscriber already that's watching this video, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for watching. See you next time.